Welcome back to Encore with your host, Encore. And our first special guest for the night is Jesse Single. Now, Jesse, I see you have just completed your latest article about how the self-esteem craze took over America. Could you tell our audience about that?
It basically just chronicles the history of the self-esteem craze, started by John Vasconcelos, and it talks about how self-esteem can really help everyone, from school children to CEOs, and people kind of took a real hold of it without a lot of research behind it. And that's kind of the reason like self-help books are around. It's even like it still has a long-term impact today.
Yeah,
and
definitely been a huge part of culture, and definitely for most of us growing up, coming into school where you never really lose. You know, sports have
participation.
Mm-hmm. The gold stars. Mm-hmm. So in your article, you talk about research, or a new idea called grit. All right, I see we have a question in the audience. Yes, ma'am?
So can you elaborate on your thoughts about teaching the characteristics of grit in the classroom?
So I believe that they're very similar to the way that the self-esteem epidemic took place, that the grit thing is still going on. But a lot of people are trying to present it as though it's the silver bullet. This is going to be the way that we're just going to solve the world's problems by teaching our children how to love themselves, how to apply themselves, and that's just not going to happen, friends.
So if you take it back to the scope of just the individual, do you think there ever could be such a way to, any kind of key to success like that as...
I don't believe there's one key to success because there's so many doors of opportunity. There can't be one key. It's not like a master key, no.
Okay. All right. Thank you for speaking with us tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll move on to our second guest, Mr. Vasconcelos, the man who spread this whole idea.
Oh my God, Vasconcelos.
Encore. Thanks for having me. So, yes, I am the man himself. I came up with this whole self-esteem craze in the early 60s and 70s. I conducted research that concluded children with low self-esteem tend to have negative lives, essentially, negative outcomes, negative behavior. They're just all over the place. So obviously, the opposite must be true. After I concluded this, I worked with the California legislature to put into action some plans, start budgeting out solutions and ways to fix this self-esteem issue that I found so prevalent.
Yes, you had your whole task force and everything sent out. But as we've discussed, or as I have discussed in my class, Truth About Lying, self-esteem seems to be directly linked with self-deception. And with the way that your legislature has been carried out throughout the country, it seems less like we're encouraging our students and more like just telling them that it's okay to feel like they did well without actually trying or putting that much effort in.
Well, my question for you, Encore, is what's the problem with self-deception? If the end result is positive, then does it matter what the means were?
Okay.
Ooh, question.
All right. We have, I thought we were done. All right, we have a question in the crowd.
Yeah, why do you think people with low self-esteem commit crimes?
People with low self-esteem don't respect themselves. Obviously, they don't respect others. So, solution, high self-esteem, more respect for others, less crime.
All right, and I would also say, definitely with the high cost of keeping so many prisoners in the prisons. And
that was one of my driving motives. I was very involved with the state legislature in clearing out our prisons and overpopulation, I'm sure you've heard. So that is what drove me to conduct my research on why so many of these prisons are being filled up so quickly.
And we have another question.
So what you're saying is if you catch kids at a young age and teach them their self-worth and boost their self-esteem, that they're more likely to be successful later in life and less likely to not be successful.
That is exactly what I'm saying. Thank you for understanding me.